Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter, and this is a breaking news episode. Peter, good to see you.
Good to see you. Today's news was stunning and totally unsurprising at the same time. Stunning because why would you take two failing, sad sack job boards, both of which were number one in the world some years back?
That's true.
And put them together without knowing what the hell you're doing. That's the announcement today. Monster.com and CareerBuilder.com are combining forces. They don't even say they're being merged. The announcement said that things like executive teams will be merged, but we don't know who. We don't know what the branding is going to be. We don't know anything about, it's stunning in its ineptitude. Sorry, shouldn't say that, but my presumption is that Randstad, global giant staffing company facing a threat from Recruit and staffing, had to get Monster off the books for some reason. So they did. And the way they did it was Apollo Global Management and the Apollo funds will take majority ownership of CareerBuilder. Randstad is taking a minority equity interest. They say it is not material to their financials. It's astonishing to think that they took over Monster and it is now immaterial to their financials some years later. Now they sold off a lot of the European monsters. They sold off all the Asian monsters. They sold off the Greek monster. And they've put no focus or effort or attention on it that anyone could see anywhere. So Monster flailing or fading into the distance is no surprise. Apollo bought CareerBuilder for reportedly $490 million, in other words, $500 million, and they've sold it off for parts. They sold off TextKernel, they sold off EMSI, they sold off this, they sold off that, they sold off the other thing.
Bullhorn.
I heard 4 years ago or 5 years ago that they had already made 7x to 10x their investment by selling off the parts and maintaining a tiny, smaller, shrinking CareerBuilder, which at one time was international in scope.
Yep.
And now is essentially the States with maybe 7 visitors and 7 job listings in Canada. I don't even know if it has that many, right? It has nothing.
Yeah.
So my question is, what happens next? The announcement from Randstad, which we link to from our alert, and you can find it on Randstad.com, is very vague.
Yeah.
And CareerBuilder, when last I checked, which is now a few hours ago, had not even posted any word on its site, nor did I receive a news release from CareerBuilder or from Apollo. I haven't looked at Apollo either.
Interesting.
When CareerBuilder was merged out of 4 job boards, the owners kept Rob McGovern as CEO. And 6 months later, they blew him out and promoted Rob Montgomery.
Yeah.
I remember because I was always confused by the Robs. And later it became Matt Ferguson. And Matt said to me, a 2-word job. And I said, what's that 2-word job? And he said, beat Monster. And then he did. And CareerBuilder overtook Monster. And then Gannett bought a piece of it. Then Gannett bought the whole thing. Gannett ran it into the ground. Gannett was trying to sell it for $1 billion, wound up selling it for $500 million. So it became, as in many things, Gannett, a muddled mess. Apollo has taken it, sold off the bulk of it. I had expected, we collectively had expected, that Apollo would be selling off CareerBuilder. And in fact, we had prepared advance obituary copy.
Oh, okay.
Which is why our report that you received today was comprehensive. A lot of that was prepared, pre-built, because we expected that CareerBuilder was going to be sold off to somebody else who was going to run it into the ground.
Okay.
Now that Apollo is combining the two companies in ways still undetermined, undisclosed on everything, we expect that they'll own it for another 3 to 5 years, because after all, now's not a good time to be doing an IPO.
Yeah.
Especially not a good time to be taking a job board and saying, well, the numbers have been great the past couple of years. We're gonna sell it off now. So they're combining two pigs and seeing if they can put lipstick on them before they lipstick on both, or one or the other, before they sell it off. And now I'll shut up.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So first of all, I'm really glad that you and I did not get into any kind of a detailed conversation before jumping on camera, because some of what you said was just hysterical, and you heard me laughing out loud at it. Wouldn't have had that pleasure if I knew what you were going to say. The other thing is, when you said right at the beginning that it's both stunning and yet not surprising, I wonder which one of us you were thinking was stunning and which one of us you think is not surprising. But I'm going to leave that for another day. In all seriousness, while you were talking about CareerBuilder not having the press release up on their website, I went over to the CareerBuilder website. Right now, it is 1:50 p.m. U.S. Eastern, Tuesday, July 2nd, and it's not up. The most recent press release that they have up is dated March 13th, 2024. CareerBuilder unveils AI hiring trends white paper read release. So that is interesting. And that there are lots of different reasons why it's not there, but sometimes the absence of something is deafening. I was asked earlier today by somebody else about what I thought about this as an owner of a job board. And in summary, not much. If this had been 10 years ago or 15 years ago, this would have been earth-shattering in our industry. This would have moved the market. This would have come up. You would have had antitrust monopoly issues with the two largest job boards combining like this. But now, kind of like you're saying, they're basically both US. They still have a lot of traffic. They still have a lot of customers. They still have a lot of revenue. The vast majority of job boards would trade their traffic, would trade their financials, would trade the strength of their brand for either one of these in a heartbeat. But I do think it's the reality is their best days are behind them. It reminds me of the 2005 merger between K-Mart and Sears, two big US department stores, retailers. And at the time that they merged, it was similar to CareerBuilder and Monster. The best days for both organizations were behind them. And I think the thinking was, if we put two pigs together, somehow we create a gazelle. And you don't. You just get another pig.
But the owner of both companies
Yeah.
sold off their real estate, made multiple gazillions,
Oh, yeah.
and he personally, maybe corporately, made multiple gazillions. And Sears and Kmart are essentially not factors in the market. I read recently that there was one Kmart left open somewhere, and there are 40 or 50 Sears stores. That's it. So,
Yeah.
you said they have.
But it is similar then. I mean, that's a good point, by putting them together and then you got rid of a bunch of these assets. It's similar to what Apollo did with CareerBuilder. Nobody is going to shed a tear for Apollo making 7 to 10 times their money back. And if putting these organizations together somehow creates one that's stronger, great. It really does seem to me like this is much more about Randstad getting rid of costs. They don't have to employ a bunch of salespeople to sell postings and IT people and whatever, right? They can get rid of that, all of those expenses, and just let CareerBuilder manage this. We might get into a situation somewhat like with Indeed and Simply Hired, right? Simply Hired is just basically a domain name powered by Indeed on the back end. So they got rid of all those people, all those costs. And
Workopolis.
Yep.
Workopolis was the dominant job board in Canada. The newspapers that owned it sold it off.
Yep.
And now it's Indeed with a different brand name.
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
We are.
You mentioned that they have lots of traffic. They really don't. They're still functioning. They're still out there, but between the two of them, they have about 12 million uniques a month, which is you would trade for. But considering that Indeed gets, I think, 200 times that, and granted globally, and many others, ZipRecruiter gets 46 million visits.
Right.
So,
and
regardless.
And definitely my point was the vast majority of job boards would trade their financials, their traffic, their brand for either one of these, but they're nowhere close to Indeed, a ZipRecruiter, et cetera. They are very much second tier, which is kind of sad. Yeah. So speaking of sad, we're going to have to leave off.
We'll see what happens. And we'll probably have layoffs to report on and executive changes to report on and all of that kind of stuff, maybe in breaking episodes or maybe just when we get together again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rothberg.
Peter, good news. And if you're, if the folks at AIM Group wisen up and you're looking for a job, you can go to CareerBuilder or Monster, and there'll probably be something good there for you.
I highly doubt it. See ya.
Cheers, my friend.
Bye.